So, thank you for tuning in to Southwest Virginia Patriots. This is going to be a series of interviews that we're doing related to the Lebanon Town Council and the upcoming election. Tonight we have Mr. Randy Burke, and Angela and myself are going to be asking some questions so that the public can get some more information as to who these people are, why are they running, what differences do they want to make, and just get their opinions on some of the issues that are facing Lebanon. So, Randy, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess we'll just start off with, who are you? How long have you lived here? What do you do?
Well, I'm Randy Burke, ER on the campaign thing, because it's legalism. But I grew up in Lebanon, moved here when I was 4 years old. If anybody asks me where I'm from, I'll tell them I'm from Lebanon, because this is my home. I left in the early 80s because I was working around the coal mines died. I mean, there was no work to be had, wasn't any jobs around here. And so I took off to Charlotte and moved around, and I moved back in 06 and made the mistake of stopping in Abingdon. I couldn't get away from Abingdon for many years. And about 4 years ago, she said, 3 or 4 years ago, she said, I think we need to move to Lebanon. And I said, yeah. And 2 weeks later, we were back in Lebanon. She's fell in love with, Wanda's fell in love with people in the place around here. Like I said, grew up, left, came back. I love this town. I've always loved this town. It was always a town where you knew everybody. You didn't have to worry about taking your keys out. And I mean, you still pretty much, I ain't gonna say what I drive because my keys in mine a lot, but you know, you still,
Yeah, come get it.
you still, I guess that's the main most thing.
Right.
I ain't a politician, never was a politician, never did like politicians.
I'd say most people that are watching this probably don't. We've gotten our bellies full of that. Angela, do you want to give the first question?
You're not a politician.
I'm a politician.
So what made you want to jump into this race?
The town looks great. I think the town looks the best it's ever looked. But I feel like we spend a lot of money on things we don't need to spend money on, and we won't give money where we might need to give money. A baseball. You know what made me get into the race? It was a baseball. We were at the town council meeting last June. I think it was last June. Been going to so many I don't remember, but they went and done their executive council or executive session. They came back out and they said, all right, vote to adjourn. And Drew Short said, hold on, I got a couple things. And he said, the Peanut Football League wants $250. Didn't say what for, just they want $250. Okay, they voted, give them $250. All right, let's adjourn. No, hang on. The Peanut baseball team, or Peanut cheerleaders, they want $250. So Elijah, one of them says, okay, I make a motion, and they vote on it, all is well. Then they talked a little bit about they said something about the gymnastics place. And it just sort of flushed away. They didn't say anything else about it. And then he said, all right, let's go. They said, all right, let's adjourn. I said, hold on, I got one more. He said, the baseball team, that they had just won the state championship for the second time ever. He said, the baseball team wants $500 for baseballs for the 4th of July parade. And I laughed. Tony Doty said, Mayor Doty, he said, well, Lord, they got a guy on there that pitched a no-hitter. If he throws one of the balls, he'll kill somebody. And Drew said, no, they're sponge balls, but they'll have about that on it. And they want $500 for it. There was no vote, there was no nothing. They got up and left. I mean, it was a fiasco. They just left. Drew said, I'll give 100. Chief Deskin said, I'll give 100. And I said, well, I'll give 100. And somebody else sitting there said they'd give 100. And they left. Well, we stayed in there and talked for a few minutes, and when I left, started out of the parking lot, they were standing out in the parking lot. All of them were standing out in the parking lot. Or not all of them, but 3 or 4 of them were standing out in the parking lot. And I pulled up, towed the truck up in the park, and I got out, and I was not a nice guy. I said a whole lot of things. I said a lot of words I shouldn't have said. But I told them, I said, that's BS, and y'all know that's BS. And they said, we can't give to everybody. I said, it's $500. We got how many millions in this, in the theater? I just throw that up as an example. Well, that's grant money, Randy. I said, who pays the grant money? Well, you're too passionate about the town. Very words that come out of their mouth. I'm too passionate about the town. I said, shouldn't you be? Shouldn't y'all be passionate about the town? Well, you need to go to the county and get them to give them the $500. I wasn't trying to get it anyway. I was just sitting there, and I said, the last time I checked, we were the Lebanon pioneers, not the Russell County pioneers. And I said, here, is it money? You need me to give you the money? And it blowed up. So he said, I said, it's not it's the Lebanon pioneers. And I went at them for a little bit longer and went on. One lady was even going through town with her husband, and she said, oh gosh, turn around and go back. She said, what's wrong? He said, what's wrong? He said, Randy's flailing his arms out there, and there's about 4 of them on the other side of him. This don't look good. And so they come back and say, make sure everything's all right. But I was mad. I left there and went down to Mayor Doty's house. I come by, and he was sitting on the front porch. I stopped and talked to him, and I said, man, this is not right. You know it's not right. It's $500. I know we can't give it to everything, but it's $500. State champions, you know. First time ever, 2-time state champion winners. And he said, and I told him, I said, I'm gonna go on Facebook tonight, and I'm gonna show what we got representing this town. I'm gonna go on talk good, I'm gonna say, share. Randy, give me 24 hours. We've been friends a long time, give me 24 hours. Tony Doty was my first boss when I was 14 years old. I worked at the hospital under the CETA program, and he was my boss. And I said, all right, you got 24 hours. Well, he calls me the next day and says, it's took care of. They're going to finagle some money around, took care of it. I said, okay, I'll drop it. And was going to let it go. Hadn't said a word to anybody, hadn't said anything before, wasn't going to say anything again. Somebody come up to me one day and said, boy, you should have heard it the other day. And I said, what's going on? Okay, just a second. I got that. What?
No name.
Who walked in there?
Yeah.
Can I say who walked in and said? Well, that's a
This
true
is your
story.
interview. You do
It's a
what you
true
want.
story.
Yeah.
They said Elijah Leonard walked in DMV the other day, and he said, boy, you should have saw it and seen Randy Burke the other night up there in the town hall parking lot. Said he really showed his ass, excuse my French. So I wait till the next town council meeting, and I go in and I said, you know, I was gonna let this drop. Tony, you said let it drop, I let it drop. Until Mr. Leonard decides to go run his mouth. And I said, now I'm gonna bring it back up. Somewhere around October, November. And I turned around and walked off, and I said, because I will do everything in my power to get some of y'all out of y'all seats come November. May not me be sitting in them, but I'll get somebody else, if I got anything to do with it, will be sitting in them seats. Go back out, we started talking, and she said, why not you? I said, why not me?
And so that's what brought you here.
That's what got me into it. As far as what I do, I'm retired / disabled. I worked for Coca-Cola for 15 years. I worked around the coal mines and the rock quarries forever. I mean, from the time when I was illegal, even when I was illegal, worked around them when you could get by with it back in the day, and electrician around the mines and rock quarries. And the heart doctor told me one day, why are you still working? And the lung doctor said, why are you still working? And my doctor said, why are you still working? And so I finally had to give it up about 2 years ago.
A lot has been made of transparency in what I've talked about at a county level. And I understand that a lot of that's happening here on a town level too. What would you say about those people that are complaining that these politicians are abusing that privilege, that they seem to be going into executive session every month? And what would you do to try and lessen the amount of time that they spend in executive session?
Yeah, because we've sat through a lot of them, because the way the town does it, they'll have so much meeting and then they go into executive session. And then they come back out. Now, what they discuss, they say is personnel, which they should discuss behind closed doors. But I've seen them, like I said, on the timeline, I've seen it like, almost like if they wanted to pass something afterwards, they'll wait till everybody leaves. Well, there's one or two they don't run out. We usually stay till they come back out. But, you know, I've always said, if you ain't got nothing to hide, you ain't lying, you are transparent. I mean,
So would you?
I might upset you,
Right.
but I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Right. Well, I feel that, believe me. So would you commit to saying if we're gonna be in executive session, we're gonna lessen the amount of time, A, and B, if we're gonna go into executive session, it's gonna either be at the very beginning or at the very end of the meeting?
Yeah, that's
Instead
what
of
it
doing it in
should
the
be.
middle?
It should be after the meeting's over, because you're not gonna really come out, well, I mean, you may come out and, they did it one night, they come out and they done raises for the police department, some of the police department. That's what they were in there talking about. But if you know you're gonna do something like that, have it beforehand.
Right.
You know, you don't stop a meeting when you got people, now, there's usually a lot of people at the council meetings. 6 or 8 that stays the whole time is a big crowd.
Right.
It's usually about 3 or 4 of us that stay, but, why make us sit out there? Do it beforehand. You know, the school board does theirs and they come into the meeting.
So, you mentioned that you're passionate about the town.
Mm.
Obviously, Daniel and I are passionate about what goes on in the county, and sometimes we get criticized for how passionate we are. I'm very passionate about small business, obviously, because I'm a business owner and because I'm the chamber director. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but, you know, we've had a lot of openings and closings of small business in town. So, and with revitalization going on, and we have a beautiful town,
Gorgeous.
but it's empty. So what would you suggest, or do you have a plan or have thought about how to help get people started and keep them sustainable here in our small town?
Well, one thing I see is, you know, this meal tax and food tax that we have. I mean, it's all right to have one, but if I'm paying that much, and Daniel's got a house full of youngins.
I don't wanna talk about it.
I mean, he can't take them all out. I mean, he can, but it's hard to take that many out. It costs a lot. When we go out, you can take a regular meal. We've just got too high of a tax on it, you know? And the other day, they said, in the meeting, they said, we got $9.5 million in the bank. Most money we've ever had. Town's the best financial shape it's ever been in. Okay. The next month, they raised the water bills. Didn't mention it in the meeting that night, but they raised them. Okay. I went and I said, hey, what's up with the water bills? And I was told it was in the newspaper in the budget. So if you are a resident, you should have got the Lebanon News when that was in there and read the budget. You know, newspapers are a dying thing.
Yeah.
We've got computers, we've got TVs and stuff. Newspapers are a dying thing. But that's where you learned about your water bill going up. And I understand the raise in the water bills. I mean, they got raises they gotta give people. They've got equipment that tears up in water plants and stuff. I understand that. But,
So,
and that's where the big increase was from.
right.
Part of it.
Last week, we held a meeting here at my place for business owners and local leaders to come and talk. And one of the things that we talked about was communication and how people get their information. Clearly, we're a small town. As quick as rumors fly, you would think valid information would fly that quick, but it does not.
Right.
So, we talked about the newspaper, and with the people that we had present in our meeting, only 50% even read the newspaper. So if you applied that to our community, I would say roughly 50 to 60% read the newspaper. So that's a lot of people that's not gonna see that information. So we do use social media a whole lot, and I convinced the town, you know, several years ago to put in a social media page. They didn't want to, which is another means of communication, but not everybody has social media, especially in the elderly population. They don't all have
That's
that.
who reads the
Or if you
newspaper.
don't, yeah. So how do you think that we could better serve our community and get information to them So that things like that, cause I don't remember seeing it, and I try to get the paper every week, but how do we get information concerning town items out to people? I don't even know if there is a good way, but.
I don't know either. I mean, the best way to get information, people need to come to meetings.
Yeah,
I mean.
or at least watch them.
Or at least watch them. Like I said, there's a very, very small crowd. Even when the Board of Supervisors has their meeting, unless it's something, 2A or it's the landfill or something big, nobody comes. People need to come, you need to know what's going on. A big problem I see with that though, well, that's not answering I'll answer your question in a minute. I skip around a lot, but I don't really know either, but they gotta do something. You know how I found out Ghostbusters is on? I rode by and seen it. I mean, there's not really that much on the page that they send out.
Right.
They need to be doing something. With all this money over here, we need to get some people in there. We went but they've got to look at their pricing and stuff on stuff to get people to come out. We went over and seen, I can only imagine, there was 5 people in the theater, 4 people in the theater, and it was us. For 3 of us to get in, 3 drinks and 2 popcorns were $53. It was $10 for a 10-year-old movie that I got at the house. I didn't need to come out here and watch it. I wanted to come out here and try to help a little bit and stuff, but we can't continue to pay for something. We gotta figure out something to get people in there. But I think a lot of it is advertising. I mean, I found out a lot of time on the concerts and stuff, the day they were happening. Hey, I might run into Shane or something, y'all coming tonight? Well, what's tonight? So I agree, we got a problem. I don't really know the fix on that. If it's radio, a combination of everything. I mean,
It is really hard to get information out. I feel like even with social media, we both have really big followings and people see things, but like I said, not everybody follows that. So even if we're sharing everything that's done in the county or the town, not everybody's gonna see it. And I'm guilty of not buying a paper every week, but I do try to get them and fly through them really quickly.
go check a second page, make sure you ain't on there.
Yeah. But communication is, and maybe not communication, but getting information to where it needs to go is a problem.
Yeah, and getting people to share, like you said, we try to share everything we can. If we see something's happening, we try to share it. Both of us do. And,
I think that falls on the leaders as well. I mean, you can put that stuff, it needs to be on social media, because that's, of course, I'm the advocate for social media, but you as a leader in that role need to be out in the community. Your face needs to be seen more and communicating, hey, look, what great things we've got going on. Like you said, I mean, information in a small town flies. If you're out there telling people, we've got this, and this going on, that's going to do more than I think that even social media or a newspaper. They need to do a better job about, during these meetings, advocating and putting that out there. I think that's something that the Board of Supervisors has done a little bit of a better job in than saying, at the end of the meeting, they've all got their time to
speak a little bit.
To speak and say, because David Eaton's really good about letting them know about what's going on in Homeacre. That would do more, I think, than anything.
Because you can't just, if you go into one of these positions, you're supposed to be representing people. I mean, I ain't supposed to be out here telling somebody what to do. They're supposed to tell me what they want. I've told all of them before, we elect you to represent what we want. If 100 of us want it and 50 of it don't matter if it's good or not. 100 of us want it.
Right.
Give us what we want as people and listen to the people. And that goes to, like the, one thing that really irritates me about both of them is when you go to a meeting, they'll do the pledge and the prayer and stuff, and what's the first thing they do? Public comment.
Before you hear what's going on.
Before you
Right.
know what's going on. And then you can't say anything. That's why, when I got through out the Board of Supervisors meeting a couple months ago, I'm proud of it. They threw me out for something I didn't do. The guy sitting beside me, he said, I'm the one that said it. I was talking though, and she kept telling me, you're gonna get thrown out, but the only thing I was saying was, we as the town citizens have a right to know what's going into our town. And have to be able to talk about it. They're talking now, and we can't rebuttal in any way
Right.
about what they say. So, there gotta be some kind of change in that. If you can talk about everything after they talk about it and discuss it, like I said, they don't come out and say, well, constituents, we're gonna do this. One thing I will do if I get in there is I'll have the agenda out the day I get it, where people at least know what's going on, so if it's something that interests them, they can come and say, and use your 3 minutes. I don't care if you stand up there and look at them for 3 minutes. They ain't gonna say nothing to you anyway, because you can't. So just go up there and look at them for 3 minutes, but come in, use your 3 minutes, use your rights that you've got.
Getting back to, you kind of touched on it there for a second, you know, there's been a lot of talk over the situation with Secor and all of these pain clinics that have come into the town under kind of like the darkness of night, to be a little bit dramatic there, but that's really what's happened. I don't remember the exact number of how many pain clinics we had in the town, but can you give a little bit of information about how that happened? Because I know that you all were
I don't
big
know
proponents.
how it happened, because there's an ordinance against it. And at one time, we had 8 Suboxone clinics in Lebanon. Suboxone is not a fix. Suboxone is something to help wean you off of drugs. If you get on it and they do you right, it's a good program. I've talked to people who say, well, they're gonna start weaning me off. We do a drug and alcohol ministry. They'll say, well, we're gonna start weaning me off of Suboxone. I said, all right, really, that's good. How long have you been on it? Well, 12 years. And they're just now starting to wean you off of it. It's a cash cow. It's what they are, they're cash cows. I begged them before the last one opened, which is already closed, but I said, they said they're coming in to meet next month. And if you have any questions, you can ask. I said, do not give them a business license till they come in and we talk this over. 4 days later, they wrote them a business license for it. That's hollow ground. The police officer can't ride by and look over twice, they get him for harassment. I mean, it's it. There's so much to it. And it's not the people of Lebanon that's going out there. If you look at the cars, they're from other places. And I tried to explain to them, I said, you know, I can go out and start on this end of town, at the one they had out there, go in there and say, man, I'm hurt, you know, just take a couple Percocets to get something in my system. And go in there where you'll pee dirty and say, man, I'm hurting bad. But I can't get back. Can you give me a couple weeks worth of Suboxone? So they give you enough strips to do morning and night for 2 weeks. Well, you drive right out the road and stop at the next one. Go in and tell them the same thing. Time to get out of town, you got a bunch of them. You'll sell them for $30, $40 a piece.
So, having worked in the healthcare field, and Daniel clearly works in the healthcare field now, one of the things that, you know, was passed several years ago is all the hospitals and everybody being able to communicate their health records. You've got an electronic health record now. Is there no record for those types of clinics for them to share that
As far as I know, there's
information?
no information shared between them. It's sad. I mean, like I said, I've had people tell us 1,000 times, you know, that's what you get them for. I had a guy tell me one time, and I mean, you'd think if anybody would knew, he would knew, and he said, well, you can't get high on Suboxone. I said, do what? And he said, you can't get high on Suboxone. I said, but you can overdose on Suboxone. He said, no, it just makes you feel normal. I said, you're wrong, you need to go check up on it. And he came back, got in front of the whole class, and he said, I owe Mr. Burke an apology. He said, everything he told us is right, because you can't. I said, I know too many people that's done it. And but going back to the ordinance, their ordinance says there has to be a physician on staff at the facility, and they have to administer to them at the facility.
Is that a new ordinance, or has it been
No,
on the
that
books for a
ordinance has
while?
been on the books since like 82 or 83. The funny thing was, they never could find the ordinance. And I got a lot of little birdies, as I like to call them. And one of them called me one day and said, hey, you need a copy of that ordinance? And I said, yeah. And they give me a copy of it. But it says they have to have a physician. So when they go out and talk to this guy, they said, well, have you got a physician on duty? Gonna be there all the time? I said, well, we've got a nurse practitioner. Well, what about a physician? Well, we got what's the other thing they call it? Yeah, physician's assistant. Never did say whether or not they had a, but it's too late anyway, they'd already given them a license. With an ordinance that said they couldn't. One of them closed, or let their business license run out.
Would you
And they
support?
give it back to them.
Would you support an ordinance going forward to say there's can only be, and I don't even know if this is legal, I'm a nurse, not a lawyer, but would you be in support of saying there can only be X number of these types of businesses in this county going forward? So I hear what you're saying with the current one, obviously they're not paying attention to that one, but would you support and advocate for a maximum amount? Because like you said, I mean, if there's 8 or 9 in one community, that's a little excessive to me.
There's two side by side.
Yeah, so,
And same with that, there should be an approval process for business
There
licenses,
needs, yes.
especially along those lines.
Yes, all right, anything like that, there needs to be an approval on. Yeah, I would support it, and also would support, they've got to wean them off of it.
yeah.
You can't leave somebody, it's trading one drug for another.
I've always said, I mean, we're kind of getting off topic here, that Suboxone, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, it's just government subsidized drug dealing. That's really what it is. And if it's
Taking taxes.
done right, then it can help people,
Yeah.
but there's so many times that it's done wrong. And in those communities, you can look up statistics that crime is higher in those communities because of that type of drug being around there.
Yeah.
And
It's the second, well, I can't say it is right now, when they do the town council meetings, Chief Deskins gets up and gives the arrest. And it was just about every month for a long time. It was, we had, 6 arrests for Suboxone, 5 for meth, and the next month it'd be 6 for meth and 5 for Suboxone. But it was the main drug they were arresting people for in this town. But we've got all these. And you mentioned C-Corps. C-Corps is a good program. Me personally, I don't like the way it got brought back in. I don't think, there's some facts that, everything's not factual, what Scott said out there. I don't go into a lot of detail with it, but I don't agree with a lot of stuff that goes on with it. I went to Drew, I went to the town council more than one time, went to the board of supervisors, and I said, even though they didn't have anything to do with it, I said, look hard at what's going on here before you give them a license. Please look hard at it. And I talked to one of the council members one day, and he said, and I said, you really need to, I said, I know we don't get along, but I don't get along with all of it. I said, I know we don't get along, but you really need to sit down and look at, and sit down with all the council and Drew, and y'all really study this a little bit. And he said, well, I don't know anything about it. He said, I don't know the guy, but I've heard, there's a lot of untruth there. But then gets up month before last, and says, I make a motion that we send the county a letter telling them we're behind C-Corps. After just telling me that not too long ago, I mean, that's the things I don't understand about them. It makes me mad about them,
well, it's like I said on Patriots for many, many years, it seems that we keep asking for transparency and we keep electing new people, and it just seems like, I've taken a lot of heat for this, that we're not getting that transparency. I mean, at a town level, at a county level, it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So, I mean, I guess the question would be, what can you do or tell people? Because in the Facebook Lives and the things that I do, that's the one thing that just keeps coming up time and time again. And this is probably the second question I've asked, but what could you do as a leader to ensure that transparency is visible to people so that they don't have this opinion like, well, C-Corps is coming in here on a backroom deal, or another Painplex popping up, or anything really.
So I think it's where we need to meet. I mean, you took this job to meet and take care of the needs, and we need to meet and discuss and find out, do a little research. I mean, I went up to, like I said, I went up to all of them and I went up in the board meeting when they started talking, and I said, Lonzo, I'm gonna ask you some questions. Now, before I ask you the questions, I want you to realize I already know the answers to every one of these questions. And I got the dumbest look, and I'd ask him a question, and he'd just look at me, and he kept looking at me, and I said, I said, so you ain't got anything to say? And he said, well, I don't know who your sources are, but they're good. And I said, all I'll say is that somebody up in the state, or it's a little birdie told me this, but,
So in the transparency and gathering information, one thing that I think would be good, and it's been addressed on the county level, and I'm sure we've talked about it on the town level too, is the community comment section, where you can only get up and you can rant and rave, ask 1,000 questions, you can do all that for 3 minutes, but it's crickets because they're technically not allowed to answer you. So wouldn't it behoove our community to have, even if it's just once a quarter, a community roundtable where you got some answers?
yeah.
I mean, is that something that you would?
I'd be 100% behind it, because I've had it happen to me too many times. Cause y'all know I get them talk a lot, and to sit there and, like I said, you get crickets. I'm saying it because I want answers. People say, I talk to y'all folks, y'all want answers, and we want, and they just.
And I do understand their hands being tied at that point of the meeting, but if we can move that to a different time, so you could make comments on what was said, but then have a time sometime in a quarter. I think every quarter would be at least a good start to be able to come, a few people, a few board members, and ask questions and get an answer,
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%. Rough crowd right there.
So, just tying this up, give like 30 seconds, why should somebody vote for you?
Well, let me give you my biggest thing. The biggest thing I got with the town right now, one thing, we got $9.5 million in the bank, that was it. We lost 11 police officers in 2 years. When those town police pull up in your house, your kids need to know, hey, there's Officer, I'll use Riggs for an example. There's Officer Riggs, there's Officer Riggs, there's Officer Riggs. Not it's, there's Officer Riggs, who's this guy? And 2 months later, who's this guy? We lost Jamie Fletcher after 25 years. And they're going for one reason, and one reason alone. The town does not have LEOs. LEOs is a law enforcement only. It's a retirement for the police department. So you go in at 30 years old, or 20 years, or 25 years old, whatever, you become a town police officer. You stick with us for 30 years. At the end of that 30 years, you say, that's it. I can't take any more. I've seen too much. We're lucky to live where we do. They don't see a whole lot, but we've seen too much. I'm gonna go on and retire. Well, you can get your town retirement, but you can't pick up your Social Security. LEOs will pay them $1,400 a month until they get Social Security age, and then it drops off, and they can get their Social Security. There's 52 agencies use Police Academy over in Brooklyn. It's come from a really good source. 52 agencies use that. How many do you think does not have LEOs? One. Coburn has LEOs. They go to the county, they go to Washington County, they go to Abilene Police Department, they go everywhere else because they can get it, because they can get their retirement. That's why people like Jamie Fletcher leave. That's why all these people leave. That we've got nothing to offer them. Why not take $1 million? It's $1 million buy-in. Oh gosh, $1 million. But it's over a 10-year period. We got $9.5 million in the bank. That's what they said. Best shape we've ever been in. Take $1 million, put it in a savings account. Draw your payments off of that savings account. You're getting interest on the backside of it. It wouldn't pay for itself, but it'd knock a big old chunk off of it if you're riding on it over 10 years off of that savings account, and we keep our officers. 22 or, like I said, 11 in 2 years is not right. It's not right. And another thing that I don't really like that the town does, they do they give a raise, they give the same people a raise, or the same raise to everybody. You know, if you get, and this comes from Marine Board, we would all three get $1,500 apiece. Well, you might work really good. And you might work okay, and I might be the sorriest human to walk face earth. Why do I deserve $1,500? And y'all getting just $1,500. It needs to be on performance, on what people do. I was out there the other day, and a guy that wasn't a normal guy, he was looking for a water meter, and he couldn't find it. He said, hang on a minute. He picks up his phone, he says, Hank, I can't find a water meter on this house. Hank knew where it's at, told him exactly where it's at. It's knowledge. You know, these old guys has got some knowledge about it. Use it. Reward them for it. The man riding down the road on the trash truck and it's 20 degrees and rain's running down his crack. How many people wants his job? I mean, nobody wants it. I ain't saying we all gotta be millionaires, but we gotta treat people fair.
Well, Randy, I do appreciate you showing up.
Appreciate you having me.
I know you had no idea what to expect, cause you got
No.
some wild cards sitting
I didn't
here.
have any, no, I
Appreciate
had
it.
nothing to, I just, she said, you wanna do it? I said, yeah, I'll do it. I have no reason not to.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.